Hello, and welcome to another edition of Florida Sportsman Action Spotter Podcast. I'm Captain Rick Riles. Hey, we're going to have a lot of fun today, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to make a quick stop in paradise. I tell you what, there is no billfish destination I love more than Nosara, Costa Rica. We'll check in with Craig Sutton quickly and see what's happening there, and then we're going to take a trip around the state of Florida. We'll start up in the Northeast with Captain David Voorhees, work our way down the East Coast, come around through the Keys with Nick Stanczyk, and go on up the West Coast, check in with Ray Markham, Kevin Lanier, and the boys, and out the Panhandle to wrap it up with Tyler Massey in Pensacola. We'll find out what's biting, and we'll find out how they're catching them right here on the Florida Sportsman Action Spotter Podcast. It's brought to you each and every week by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people and nature together. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara, Paradise Rentals, your dream vacation. By DOA Lures, the unfair advantage. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flats, bay, and offshore hybrids? You need to check out youngboats.com. Let's get our little trip started with a quick stop in paradise. I know who's waiting for us with that plane to land in Nosara. None other than my good friend Craig Sutton. Craig, how are things going in Nosara?
Wide open, Captain Ricky.
How about
that?
Wide
open, buddy. Fishing's great. We're packed out. Fishing every day, almost every single boat, and the fish is there, buddy.
Man,
it's this fight all year long has really been remarkable. And it's always seemed to pick up the end of May through August. And this year didn't disappoint at all. It's like, and it's like when the big yellowfin kind of went away about a week ago, and I'm talking about 150 pounders plus, the marlin have showed up. It's like, okay.
Wow.
That's okay with me.
Yeah, that's okay with you. Wow. And
big Dorado too, man.
And you look for that to hold all the way through August, huh?
Yeah. The time when you and me are going to be back down there. Yeah, I do.
That's right. Well, I sure do hope you're right, Craig. I sure do. Let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm. You're
a lifer like me. How many days off of the water before you start getting grumpy?
Yeah, it doesn't. It just kind of depends on the time of the year. If
prime
it's
time.
It's summertime?
Prime time. Yep. Whatever your favorite time is, which I happen to know for a fact for you is May.
Yeah, well, then I get grumpy if I don't get to go anytime. If I miss one good day of good weather, I'm okay with one. But if I miss two in a row or, 2 weeks in a row or something like that, I'm not a happy camper.
I know. My daughter is coming tomorrow with my grandson. He and I are chafing at the bit to get back at the Stewart sailfish. The weather's going to be perfect on Wednesday, and I let her know that when she gets here tomorrow, just throw his suitcase into my truck because he and I will be leaving for Stewart. She said, Daddy, no, you're not. We got to spend the week together. Huh? Say what?
Yeah, I'm with you on there. I mean, the family events will kind of take my mind off of it and kind of calm me down a little bit. Because unfortunately, sometimes I can't go fishing because of family stuff. But come on now, I can only take a couple of those.
Right, I'm right there with you, Cap. Hey, I appreciate it so much, Craigie. Please tell me we can talk to you next week.
Absolutely, and I can't wait.
If I'm not divorced, I'll be talking to you next Monday. Thank you, buddy.
All right, bro.
Our thanks to Craig Sutton for a great Nosara report. Craig and all of our action spotters are brought to you every week by Yamaha. Reliability starts here by Shimano, bringing people and nature together. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara, Paradise Rentals, your dream vacation. By DOA Lures, the unfair advantage. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flats, bay, and offshore hybrids? You need to check out youngboats.com. Our thanks to Craig Sutton for a great report from Paradise, where it seems like the fishing just gets better. Now, let's swing up into Northeast Florida, where things might be a little more challenging, and check in with our boy David Voorhees. Captain David, how are you?
Hey, Ricky, I'm doing great. Finally, the weekend is over.
Woo!
And it looks like, I think this new moon's going to be some better fishing than what we had last week. It was a struggle for me as far as the redfish goes. And I think a lot of that was because the tide just really didn't get low. Talked to several captains who said that they could see redfish way back in some of the creeks and they just couldn't get to them with their boats. And the fish never made it out to the intercoastal, which is where I like to catch them along those deep banks. But we did okay. We did pretty good considering the conditions that we did have. We saw some nice keeper trout this week. And I got a 5-pound flounder this week.
Oh, that's a good one. Yep, that's a good one.
Oh, yeah. And I was really surprised because it was way back in one of my favorite deep holes back in a creek, actually between Beach Boulevard and JTB. And it was, I really didn't think it was a flounder. And the guy, I'm thinking the guy has a stingray. I knew it was a flat fish, a bottom fish. And he's bringing it in, and the fish really wasn't fighting that hard. And lo and behold, when it gets beside the boat, I see this flatty that just made me, oh my gosh, ran for the net. We landed the fish. It was a beauty. My biggest so far this year. I got one last week that was about a 3 or 4 pounder, but this was a real beauty. Mangrove snappers, they're just absolutely everywhere. As a matter of fact, I just finished eating 2 really nice mangrove snaps. 2, Rick, filled me up.
How about that? How'd you cook them?
Oh, I like to leave them whole. I scrape the scale off of them. I like to cut slits in the meat, down the side. I bread them with some Zatarain and deep fat fry them so I can eat those crispy fins.
That sounds good. For those of you that don't know, David is a chef by former trade before he became a full-time fishing guide, and I always get my fish recipes from David. David, that sounds absolutely fantastic. I'm so pleased to see those big mangroves early this year. We usually see those in August and September. I'm hoping by August and September we're seeing some 15-inch fish.
Really, that would be really nice, Rick. And I tell you, when I was at the cleaning table, there was about 2 or 3 guys who walked up. They had some fish to clean also, and they looked at my snapper and they go, "I have never seen snapper that big inshore." And I said, "Me neither." And it's no big secret. I don't keep things secret from people. I've been catching those around docks, and I love dock fishing around here in Northeast Florida. And one thing I've always said about dock fishing is some docks are better than others.
Oh, yeah.
And I love the docks that have deep water at the end of them. And these particular docks are absolutely in about 10 to 15 feet of water at the end of them. And we have caught everything under these docks, and we have missed some pretty big reds that have taken our bait and just ran back under the dock, and there's no stopping.
Oh, yeah. Yep, you gotta have that happen for the trip to be successful. David, thank you so much, and please tell me we can talk to you next week.
I'll be here, Rick.
Hey, before you go anywhere, I got a question for you. All right?
Shoot.
Before I forget it. Charter fishing aside, let's throw out the fact that you make your living running charters. How many days can you stay off of the water before you just become a grumpy old man?
Oh, you know what? I've been very fortunate in my life to really fish a lot. I mean, I look at it, I have fished hard since I was probably 7 years old. So I would probably have to say, if I got past 2 weeks without going fishing, I wouldn't get grumpy, but boy, I would be biting at the bit or itchy to get on the water. I would say for me, it's going to be 2 weeks, which some people would think, that's going a bit long, but I've been fortunate enough to do a lot of fishing in my life. So I feel happy. I've done it a lot. It's going to take a little while it's going to take a lot to get me grumpy.
David, I just feel so blessed that I still get itchy after a few days. If it's been a week, somebody better get me on the water. My wife was always famous for saying that he's very easy to figure out. Has he been fed and has he been fishing? If those two things have been met, he's not going to be in a bad mood. Thank you, Cap.
All right, Rick, we'll see you next week.
We
buddy.
appreciate it. Thank you, buddy. Now, let's hop on down to Central Florida. Jimmy, what's going on?
Well, Rick, it's been another windy March-type week here in Central East Florida. But, having said that, there has been some really good catches. And the one thing that we've really been focusing on and been able to target well is the speckled trout. Anywhere where you get along a leeward or a windward edge that has mullet, you're finding these fish right now, and they're pretty good size. The average, is running 18, 19 inches.
Ooh, that is a good average.
Nice big fish. Like on one day this week, we only caught one that was below 18. He was about a 15-incher. On another day, we caught two, and one was about 10, and one was about 15. But everything else has been 18, 19, up to about 22 inches. And we're throwing topwater plugs. And with these hazy, overcast, windy situations that we've had here the last couple of days, that we're throwing topwater well into the day. I mean, well into the day. Much, much longer than what we would normally be throwing it, especially if it were sunny and calm. So we're trying to use the situation that we have at hand to be able to maximize the catch that we're targeting. And the redfish have been tough. The black drum have been tough. There's a snook here and there. There's a tarpon here and there. But the trout has been the shining. They've really been the bright spot as far as this week goes. And so we've just continued to try and stick with that game plan as best we can.
I got to tell you, Jim, you brought up an interesting point with that, and I believe it with all my heart. I do better on surface lures in a chop than I do a slick calm. Now, it looks cooler in a slick calm to watch that lure walk across the top of the water, but I swear I do better when there's a chop on the water.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure why that is. They seem to knock the plug up in the air more when the water's calm than they eat it better when the water's got a little riffle to it.
I would agree, and we both like a cloudy sky better, right?
Whoa, most definitely.
Yep. Hey, that's a good report. What's going on offshore? Anything?
Well, we had the FSFA tournament over the weekend. I think it was the 54th annual, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
Those guys have been doing it for a long time. And once again, red snapper were thick as fleas on a dog. They just every place that you tried to bottom drop or slow troll for king mackerel, people seem to be catching red snapper. There's a highly elusive unicorns, if you will. But there are some really big gag grouper out there right now. And if you can get a full-size ladyfish or a big lizardfish or cut a bonita in half and then cut like the tail off of it, you can catch a big grouper right now. You just have to get something big enough that the red snappers can't get the bait in their mouth.
Hey, Jim, you want a scary thought?
What's that?
You want to lie awake all night tonight?
No, not really.
Well, if you want to, I'll give you one. The entire federal government is being run with the efficiency of the South Atlantic Fisheries Management Council.
I know. Here's the other interesting thing about the grouper. So, we talked about the unicorn snapper, hitting everything that fell out of the boat over the weekend. The grouper, though, here's the problem. The grouper that were caught, I didn't talk to anybody that caught a grouper less than 24 pounds.
Wow.
A gag.
Yeah.
A gag grouper.
That's all males.
The top weight on the board, there was 3 black bellies that were weighed in that were over 30 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
All of the top fish were in the 30 and above pound range. So here's the problem. We have red snapper from 30 pounds to a half a pound.
Mm-hmm.
We have gag grouper from 30 plus pounds down to 24 pounds.
Right.
Nobody is catching small grouper right now.
Right. Where's the 12s?
I'm not understanding why we are not paying closer attention to these fish than what we are. We've turned a blind eye. You can't catch a sea bass that's bigger than 13 inches. You can't catch a gag grouper that's less than 24 pounds. what is going on in our ocean. We really, really need to get dialed in and focused in and have some better regulations from the federals than what we have, because they have mismanaged it to the it is squared, no, cubed, no, to the 10th power. They've mismanaged it to the 10th power that badly.
Yeah, I agree with you. Thank you, Jimmy. We'll talk with you next week if that's all right.
Sounds great, Rick. I look forward to it.
Captain Jim Ross from East Central Florida. Now let's hop on down to Miami and check in with the mayor of South Beach, Captain Alan Sherman. Alan, how are you?
I'm doing fine, Rick.
Good.
How are you?
I'm doing outstanding, my boy. Tell me what's going on fishing-wise in Miami.
Well, some of the offshore fishing has slowed down, like the kingfish and the blackfin tuna. There's still some fish out there, but the main focus recently has been on the dolphin, the mahi-mahi. So they've been catching dolphin out there all week, and they're still kind of scattered because they're getting them as shallow as 200 feet and as deep as over 1,000. So you have to look around for them. And the key is finding the western edge of that of the Gulf Stream, where that green water changes to a deep blue or purple. Looking for weed lines, frigate birds, also known as man-o-war birds or hawks, and then some terns. If you can locate some floating debris, even better. And then along the weed lines, and there's been quite a few weed lines out there, sargasso weeds. But you got to find some sargasso weeds that have bait, floating debris that has bait, or diving birds going to the surface, whether it be the frigates or the terns. You can follow the frigates. Some guys like to do that. Personally, I like to just run and gun. You get to that edge, and if you don't see anything, you just keep moving your way out. I always try and go south of where I start, because the current from the Gulf Stream is going to take you north. And if you luck into a school of fish, sometimes if that current's really rolling, you could be miles north of where you started. But that's what a lot of the guys are doing. They're catching quite a few, peanuts, fish that are either undersized, just legal, but they're also getting some gaffers, some 15 to 20 pounders, 10 pounders. One guy up in Boynton had one 44 pounds.
That's a good one.
So there's some pretty good sized fish cruising along the coast. Moving closer in, we're seeing less tarpon, but more snook in the ocean inlets and along the beaches. Those fish are going for live pinfish, large shrimp, artificials. And then there's been some bonefish schools on the flats on the calm days. We haven't had a lot of calm days, but when we get one, the flats have been pretty hot for bonefish. Another good fishery that we've had, it's kind of late in the year for that, but the freshwater fishing in the Everglades has been quite good. The canals, Tamiami Trail, L67, Holiday Park, Alligator Alley, and Sawgrass. One thing about the Holiday Park, though, the boat ramps there are closed. They're redoing the whole area there, and I heard that will not open until, I think, late June. But really good largemouth peacock bass and a lot of cichlids. The water levels are still pretty low because we haven't had much rain. And that kind of sums it up for the South Florida anyway, Miami area.
Gotcha. Well, I know you got a new boat today, and I'm thrilled for you, a new Pathfinder. I've got to ask you one quick question. How many days can you spend off the water before you become a grumpy old man? And so far, coming all the way down the East Coast, the longest period we have found is 4 days.
Well, it only takes me a couple, and I'm like 8 days without a boat.
Woo!
So, yeah, I turned mine in 8 days ago, and I have not been a happy camper.
Poor Dana.
I've slept well. That's right. Exactly. But I'll sleep better tonight, and I should have this boat up and running by Friday.
That's great. Starting your break-in tomorrow?
We're going to put some stuff on the boat tomorrow.
Gotcha.
I've still got some work to do to it, and I don't want to rush it too fast, but I'm looking to be on the water Thursday and guiding on Friday.
Excellent. Congratulations on your new boat, Alan, and we'll talk with you next week if that's okay.
Sounds great, Rick. Talk to you then.
Okay. Thank you, Captain Alan Sherman from Miami. Yes, it's finally getting hot. And of course, that means the water's warming up too. And just like the great fish always do, the biggest and the baddest of so many of the species we fish for will soon be holding in deep water in an attempt to cool off. You name it, if it feeds deeper in the water column, it can't refuse a DOA terrorize. It dives straight down and crawls along the bottom with an action that no deep feeder can resist. Whether it's a crappie holding deep under a lily pad or a tarpon rooting around a bridge piling, DOA makes a size and a color terrorize that they can't say no to, flashing that big bright eye right in front of any bottom-feeding game fish is just unfair. Hey, maybe that's why they call DOA lures the unfair advantage. Now let's swing into 10,000 Islands, where the mayor of every one of those islands, Captain Steve Dahl, is with us. Steve, how are you?
I'm doing well. How you doing, Rick?
Doing excellent, buddy. Tell me about fishing in 10,000 Islands.
Well, it's still great. I got to be honest with you. I mean, we talked last week about how stellar the snook fishing's been, and we kind of are catching those big fish, those big female fish offshore on some nearshore wrecks and reefs, and that's still happening. And we also got a wave of fish this week that hopefully will probably stick around. It doesn't really look like they're going anywhere, that are back on the beaches. So I don't know. So I think we're probably going to have another second wave of fish migrate out to the nearshore stuff here in a couple of weeks. So if you can kind of follow them out there, you probably got another 3 weeks of, really, really good snook fishing. And, reports are really good along the beaches. Boats are certainly catching them with artificials and some live bait. But, this is where it shines for the guy who wants to get in a couple hours before work, maybe even an hour, bring a change of clothes and a couple rods, get down there before you clock in for work. And you're not going to have any competition out there at first light. So, I mean, definitely something to take advantage of, and a great opportunity to take some of the bigger snook that we have, in our area.
I got a question for you on those beach fish, Steve, and I'll tell you why I ask it. I love to fly fish for reds in the surf up here in Northeast Florida. They will come in, and you get a quick look at them, and you have to make a quick cast, and it's a great fight. And I have learned that those fish do not always understand the trouble they're in when you hook them from a boat. Sometimes they just kind of give up easy, but they ain't never made one that didn't understand he doesn't want to come through that surf. Are the snook the same way? Do they just seem to fight harder in the surf?
They do. It's something else. It's funny you bring that up, because that is exactly the case. If you're going to do this, be prepared to be moving. And when I say moving, if you're not chasing down some of these fish on the beach, by foot, you're probably going to get spooled. And they just are just fierce. And I have no idea why. So it's really funny you say that, because I've experienced that too. I like doing it. It's a nice little break, on a day off, or, something to get out there and do. But they just act a little differently. And I don't know if they're trying to, and it's not even as if they're really, taking off away from shore. Mm-hmm. A lot of times they're just running down the shoreline. So it's not like they're looking for the deep water refuge or trying to get away from what they may think is trouble close to shore. They're just trying to get away.
They know they don't want to come through that. They know they don't want to come up on that beach, don't they?
Yeah, they do. It's you almost can sense that. And the crazy part is you'll see some of these sometimes, with their fins out of the water. They're literally laying on the bottom sometimes in super, super shallow water. But the minute you hook them, forget it.
Mm-hmm.
They're gone.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's
Good
cool.
point, Rick.
That is so cool. Hey, what else is going on down there?
Permit fishing is still shining too. I mean, that's always the often overlooked thing that we have in our area, just because tarpon season usually coincides with the beginning of it, and then the guys offshore kind of bypassing the permit to go after American reds, or groupers open up in June every year, and so that usually just takes a back seat, and it's a shame because they're such a fun fish to catch. They're plentiful. You heard me say it a million times, I am a full advocate of catch and release on those. And I'm a big believer that we're building a fishery of 30-pound, sustainable, permit on our nearshore wrecks.
Wow.
And I think there's 40-pound class fish out there. I really, in my heart of hearts, do. And they just don't get a lot of pressure. And it's, you can sight fish these things. You can float live bait at them. There's a whole bunch of different ways to kind of do it. And it's a really cool experience if you kind of like hunting some fish, because they're there and they're generally in schools too. So it's a lot of fun. But yeah, the permit fishing has still been bang up on in our area. So that's kind of what. Those are the two big ones in our area right now.
That's fantastic. Hey, let me ask you a quick question before you go. We've had a lot of fun with this question tonight. How many days off the water before you get a twitch, before you become a grumpy old man?
Oh, it doesn't take much for me, and I'll tell you why. And it's, I don't know. I'm going to call it 48 to 72 hours, somewhere in that range. And I guess the reason why is I've always been someone that has always said there's no substitute for time on the water.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I am lost when I come back from like a vacation, or if I take more than 2-3 days off the water. I am just I'm not comfortable in my skin.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's my first day at work,
yep.
And I just, there's just something about when you're out there on a day-to-day basis that you're so in tune to all the subtleties and the subtle changes that happen on a day-to-day basis that might go unnoticed to, somebody that just fishes once a week. So, again, we're fishermen. We probably overthink all this stuff, but, yeah, give me 2 days off the water and I am, coming out of my skin.
Okay. I'm getting in a lot of trouble at home, Steve, and I just wanted to make sure that I was on solid ground here. Yep, because I'm...
No, it's it. I mean, it's, you got to plead, honey, I got to be there. It's my wife's work.
But my wife puts it very well. Fishing is not what he does. A fisherman is who he is. And I think she's absolutely right. Buddy, thank you so much. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Oh, can't wait.
All right, thanks so much. Captain Steve Dahl checking in from 10,000 Islands. Hey, the year was 1953 when one of the true pioneers of big game fishing just hung it up. Let me tell you who it was. None other than Ernest Hemingway. I just don't want to do it anymore, he's credited with saying. The tackle has become so sophisticated, the fish just don't have a chance. Did I mention the year was 1953? Can you imagine walking him through the aisles of either one of the Strike Zone fishing locations and showing him the latest and greatest from Shimano? Can you imagine handing him a Saragossa spinner that weighs less than his bait and could put more torque on a rampaging tuna than the giant old reels of his day? No, Ernest, I'm afraid you left us way too early. The fights with great fish still go on, and sometimes we still get beat. But if I were a sea monster of your day, I think I'd still rather do battle with you than face the tools that Shimano has stocked in Strike Zone 68 years later. Let's move up the coast a little bit to Snook Stamp Charters. That's where we'll find one Captain Greg Stamper. Greg, how are you?
I'm doing very well, Rick. How about yourself?
Well, I'm doing okay. I've been off the water now for almost 2 weeks. And my wife is soon going to drive me to the boat and kick me out of the truck.
Oh, well, good for her. She should do that. I don't know why you're sitting home freeloading on her. You might as well get out there and make some money.
Yeah, you might be right. I tell you, I don't know about you, but I get a little itchy when it's been more than 3-4 days off the water.
No doubt about that. No doubt about that at all.
Tell me about your fishing.
All right. So I know you live up there in the beautiful northern area of the United States as far as I'm concerned, and you probably have beautiful weather, but we have something down here right now called summer, Rick.
Oh, does that mean it's hot?
Oh, it's plenty hot, and the rain has begun. Now, this is a good thing for us because this really changes things up. This lets all our fish know that summer has begun, and they can definitely be a little more consistent on knowing that if you are a weatherman, all you have to do is say partly cloudy, chance of afternoon thunderstorms, and you're going to be good to go now for about another 3.5 months.
You can take the next 3 months off till the hurricanes start.
Exactly. But the fishing was great. It really did pop when that rain came in. We got into a lot of really nice redfish. I think these fish, Rick, actually came in off our nearshore wrecks and reefs and flooded in the back bay on that cooler water. We pretty much hammered them hard for about 2 or 3 days. Now, we didn't get any rain even today, so it was a little bit slower today as far as catching those red. But the snook bite continues to be very good on both cut baits, live baits, and things like pinfish as well. And the beach is still where they are all at. But there are a few that are climbing back into the back bays and the estuaries. They're still having fun. Now, those big girls, they're all definitely right now getting ready for that next spawn. You're going to start seeing these fish more and more often off of our wrecks and our reefs for about 2 to 3 more months.
Uh-huh. Okay. All right. So you're in a pattern now. You're getting your regular summer pattern.
Yes, we are. And the nice part about the rain is it starts to fill up the lakes and the rivers, and all that pushes a lot of these fish that are in our rivers and our creeks back out into the bay, where we like to find them a lot easier than running around and looking for them all day. So that's going to go really well. Now, the offshore guys, Rick, I'll just let you know, the red snapper bite is ridiculous. These guys aren't even going that far. Well, they're not going that far as I'm concerned. Normally, we're talking about 50 miles plus. A lot of these guys are getting these fish in 100 feet of water or less. And that's going to start changing as people get out there and do more and more with the pressure. We'll start to push these bigger fish out. Definitely those individuals that got out there in 150 plus caught the biggest ones. But there were keepers that were caught in 100 feet of water.
Hey, you want me to give you something to keep you lying awake all night tonight?
Sure, go ahead.
The entire federal government is being run with the exact same efficiency as red snapper management.
Oh, that's not good.
I got to tell you, Greg, they announced this week that the Atlantic season would be 3 days.
3 days.
3 days. I about had a stroke. I mean, the king fishermen can't troll. The grouper fishermen can't fish. The triggerfish fishermen can't fish. Nobody can fish because the reefs are completely run over with red snapper. And their answer was there was too much bycatch with all the other fish going on. The population can't stand more than a 3-day season.
Oh, please.
Greg.
Hey, we went through that a couple of years back, and now look what's going on. So all I can do is hope that things will turn around for you, because I'll be honest with you, we've talked about it. If you get out there in that deeper water, they're everywhere, Rick, everywhere.
Greg, if we dynamited them for 3 days, we couldn't touch them. I mean, it's crazy.
About that.
Hey, buddy, I appreciate it. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Oh, absolutely. No worries about that. Tight lines.
Captain Greg Stamper.
You know what Yamaha Outboards love? The genuine formula and consistency of Yamalu marine engine oils.
What?
Outboards are subjected to punishing conditions like high loads, salt, and humidity, a mix that automotive oils can't handle. Yamalu full synthetic and marine performance formulas are certified to protect against friction and corrosion for reliable performance every time. Find Yamalu marine oils at your nearest Yamaha Outboard dealer. Locate them at yamahaoutboards.com/dealers. Yamaha, reliability starts here.
Hey, Raj, being consistent is a mark of a quality product. If you've been Florida's #1 chum for over 10 years, there's got to be a reason.
For 10 years, Tournament Master Chum has lived up to its name. That's why more tournament pros insist on Tournament Master than any other chum. It's the only chum with Menhaden milk mixed right in. That means it gets the scent out faster and deeper than any other brand of chum. It comes in a grind size for every species, from kingfish to catching bait. Your fishing time is way too precious to you second-rate chum. Bring the action to you by insisting on Tournament Master Chum. It's worth every penny.
When you're ready for the finest in custom-made flat spay or inshore-offshore hybrids, you are ready to meet the Young family in Inglis, Florida. For over 21 years, the Young family has built custom boats one at a time for every type of fishing. Nothing can sneak up on a flat quite like the Gulf Shore flats boats, and I've never fished a better hybrid than the Young 24s and 27s. Rob Young is a naval architect who takes tremendous pride in each and every build for each and every customer that wants their boat custom built exactly the way they want it. Is it time for you to move up? Are you ready to own the finest boat built? Then you need to visit the Young Boat facility in Inglis, Florida, or check them out online at youngboats.com. Our thanks to Greg Stamper for a great report, man. It sounds like his fishing's awfully good. Their snook fishing really, really outstanding this year. Let's see if that continues up into West Central Florida and check in with Captain Ray Markham. Raymond, how are you?
Greetings. Tired's a good thing.
What's going on with your fishing?
Well, a little bit of everything. Inshore, the snook bite has been excellent. I can't say anything better than if you're a fly fisherman, you'd love to come fishing because it probably doesn't get any better than this because that's the toughest way to catch them, in my opinion. But guys got it done today. And, inshore, offshore, doesn't matter where you're fishing, it's going off. The guys that are getting out for grouper and red snapper are just waxing them. And everything I've seen, nothing but good reports. A lot of big, big fish.
Oh, I've heard that out of anywhere where there's a red snapper. Ray, if you want to hear something scary, we got the notice of the season this week on red snapper for the East Coast. It's 3 days.
I saw that. I'm like, why are they giving you so many days?
Yep. So what happened June 1st? You went to 1 trout, 1 redfish. Is that right?
Yes and no. For areas north of State Route 64, which includes all of Tampa Bay and everything all the way up to Pasco, it's pretty much back to what should be the regular season kind of thing.
Okay.
So I guess one thing that I did see big in the change in that area that I just mentioned is that there's one fish over 19 inches in the trout that is allowed to be kept per boat, not per angler, per boat.
Good. I like that.
One big thing. Now, south of State Route 64, they're imposing a boat limit as well as a limit of 3 per angler with 1 over 19. But the new boat limit down south is going to be 6 total fish per boat. They didn't care whether you got 6 anglers on the boat or 2. So I think that's a good thing. That area south of Manatee Avenue, State Route 64, whatever you want to call it, was really hammered, and they've got a lot more coming back to do before I think they can let things completely go open. They did not reopen redfish south of State Route 64, so that will be closed for another year. And other than that, I mean, snook will open up in September. As far as I know, we'll open up both north and south of that area down there. But there again, I think they're in the process of doing the stock assessment, which is its normal time for both redfish and snook. So you could see changes in either slot limits of either species or bag limits or even both. So time will tell, and they're crunching all the numbers and seeing where we stand. So that's where we are.
Okay. All right. That's good. Ray, one thing I want all fishermen to keep in mind, okay, when we're coming up with new limits and when they're setting limits for the year coming up, I hope the fisheries managers remember, and I'm quite sure they will, we have had an explosion in number of boats on the water. So we've got to plan accordingly. A good friend of mine, Captain Robert Johnson, I was talking with him about mahi the other day, and he said, well, I don't really know if mahi is as good as it's always been or not. And I said, oh, what are you talking about? I used to catch 20 and now I catch 2. And he said, that's right. That doesn't tell me a thing. I said, what do you mean that doesn't tell you a thing? He said, when you were catching 20, we had 25 boats on the ledge or 50 boats on the ledge. Rick, on a pretty Saturday, we've now got 1,000 boats on the ledge.
Yeah.
So what if they each catch 2? That's 2,000 head of mahi.
Right. Rick, the way I look at it is this. FWC does, I think, a pretty good job of establishing size and bag limits and seasons and all that. And they do the best they can with the science that they have, even though they are now finally using some citizen science, that I think is what they're calling it. Guys like you, myself, and a bunch of other guides and just everyday anglers and seeing what they're seeing. So I think that's a good thing. But bottom line, it's up to each and every person that goes out there on the boat to decide what the limit is, not just the limit that FWC says, but it's like a speed limit. You get on the highway, and if it's too congested for conditions to do that 55 miles an hour, you might drop down to 45. So same difference. If I see a gazillion people on the water and everybody seems to be catching fish, I don't have to keep the limit. My limit can be whatever my limit wants to be. In the minimum, without going outside whatever FWC's limits are. So as far as I'm concerned, don't always keep your limit your keep. So
I got you, Cap. I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you, Raymond. We appreciate it.
You bet, buddy.
All right, thanks to Ray Markham for a good West Central report. Now let's move up into the Big Bend and check in with our buddy, Captain William Toney. William, how are you?
Doing good, man. Been up here, been a little windy, but I tell you what, I have seen some great red snapper coming into the dock here on the Homosassa River. Great gag groupers. And trout bites a little down. Redfishing's been good, but, fishing's been okay, but wind was up today.
I got you. Yeah, it seemed like it was everywhere. I know it was here in Jacksonville, and it seemed like all throughout the state it was a little choppy today, but some of the boys got it done anyway. You say the trout have dropped off a little bit up there?
Yep, it sure have. It seems that there's two different ways to get them. So if you're here on the Big Bend, what I suggest, if it's a windy, cloudy day, target them on the inshore bays. Anywhere that you would have targeted them back, like, say, around September of last year. If you can memorize those spots, there's a few trout in there. And if it's got a little bit of chop, use that popping cork with a DOA shrimp, either in glow. I like that color. And also there's a red glitter that works really well, especially the popping cork when it's windy. Now, the other method, if it's a calmer day, they're out about 8 to 12 feet, and use that same type of shrimp, but use it down deep in the water. And it's about, you may have to put like an 1/8 ounce jig head, put that shrimp on there, and go low and slow over deep turtle grass out there, and that will get the bite for the trout. So 2 different spots.
So you think this warmer water quite often sends them deeper?
It definitely does, and the thing is, I was thinking about today, we had some rainy conditions and things like that, and it's been pretty dry where I'm at. My yard is very crunchy, and we need those rains, and they're starting to show up. I had a couple, thunderbolts and things happening out there today. So I look at that as a transition from, our dry months into that monsoon weather where we got to start watching the afternoon, weather conditions. But we need that fresh water in that salt water. It changes salinity a little bit and everything like that. So when it does that, the inshore bite can be okay. But then when you get to that deeper water, I think just the cloudy conditions makes that bottom, we'll say the bottom water column a little bit cooler out in that 8 to 12 foot range, and those trout will bite.
I got to tell you, I've heard a lot of people describe their yard before, but not very often as crunchy. That's kind of a new one on me. I like that.
Well, that's the thing. We just haven't had a lot of rain, and it's starting to come around the afternoon. We get, being here on the Big Bend, it's almost funny if you can imagine the whole state of Florida, and you guys, the sea breeze kicks up around probably 2 or 3 o'clock on the East Coast, and then ours kicks in about the same time. But a lot of times the East Coast will win over the West Coast, and a lot of the storms will form right where those two sea breezes meet in the center of the state. And, it will push over toward us. And a lot of times those storms will make it right out to the edge of the coast, but not push offshore. Now, on occasion, we get a hard southwest flow, and it will push those storms back inland, toward the center of the state. But it's kind of a tug and pull between the Gulf and the Atlantic. But we need that, and what it does, it gets pretty snotty hot, we'll say, during the summer. But those overcast days and those heavy rains that we get will help produce a good bite. Dropping barometers, cooling water from rain, overcast days with some wind helps that bite.
I got you. All right. That sounds like an outstanding report. I'm not the least bit surprised to hear that your snapper and grouper fishing is good, as it seems to be pretty well all over. I don't know if you heard the latest or not, but the Atlantic Council is giving us a 3-day red snapper season this year.
What?
Yeah.
What? 3 days? And it's probably Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Come on, man.
No, it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But William, we could dynamite them for 3 days and you wouldn't affect them in the least.
The only problem on our side is, they're running out, starting at about 60 to 70 feet, which is a good run for us here on the Big Bend. But they're bringing in, these are red snappers like Louisiana oil rig snappers coming in here on the Homosassa River, they're huge.
Right.
And, the guys are not having a problem getting them. So I don't know what the big deal is. I mean, if you're going to make the effort to go out there and get come on, give us more than 3 days.
Now you want the rest of the bad news?
Well, Paul Harvey always said, you want the rest of the story.
Yeah, here's the rest of the story. The entire federal government is being run with the efficiency of the South Atlantic Fisheries Management Council.
Oh, no. No.
We're all screwed, William.
Oh, no, man. Oh, no.
Thank you, buddy. We appreciate it. Please tell me
that kind of fish coming. I just going to say, Rick, when you see those type of fish coming in, and these guys are running out in small boats and getting them, it's a no-brainer.
William, they have taken over every reef within that is shallower than 140 feet in Northeast Florida, and you literally cannot fish for anything else. You can't.
Yeah,
you can drop the tiniest piece of cuttlefish down on a little bitty circle hook to try and catch a triggerfish, and you catch a 20-pound red snapper. It's just, it is frustrating beyond belief, and it just shows that I had a party boat captain tell me 20 years ago that the goal was to get all the hooks out of the water. And I thought, oh, come on, let's not get carried away. Guess what, William?
Hey, you're making me a believer too there.
The goal is to get all the hooks out of the water.
Oh, that's so sad.
Thank you, Cap. We appreciate it.
All right. We'll see you next week, Rick.
You got it, Captain William Toney, with all the news from the Big Bend area where he is large and in charge. Now let's move into Northwest Florida and check out our pal Kevin Lanier. Captain, what's happening with KC's Sport Fishing Adventures?
Hey, Captain Rick, we are knee-deep in red snapper right now, my friend.
I can believe it. You catching them?
Oh, my gosh, yes. We opened up on the 1st and had a little rough weather the first day or two, but we've limited the boat every day. The weekend, we had a phenomenal weekend. We got some nice big teenagers. The grouper bite has been outstanding. Red grouper and gags. We've gotten scamp. It's like finally being able to open that brand new present you've been wanting to open for a year.
That's right. That's well put. That's exactly how it is. It's exactly how it is. How's the size on your grouper?
The grouper have been probably in the 15 to 25 pound range.
Okay.
I saw one over the weekend that looked like it was pushing in the 40s.
Ooh.
A friend of mine got that one. So that was a good fish. Lots of reds, lots of legal red snapper, which has been really exciting. We've kind of gotten out of the 16 to 18 inch group and into the keeper size.
Good deal. Good deal. What's the biggest one you've seen so far?
Biggest red snapper I've seen is probably about 22 pounds.
It's a good one.
We haven't broke 20 yet, but man, we got close the other day. We got a couple of really big sows, caught them, and like we normally do, we kind of eased on out of the area and got in and had some real nice quality fish for the entire group. The guys were tickled to death.
That's fantastic. I'm glad to hear it. Anything going on inshore, or is it still slow?
Lots of people on the beach.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. We're spending so much time focusing on the offshore world. Not a lot of focus on the inshore guys. They are getting some flounder still. There's some triple tail being caught. Seen some nice ones, but since red snapper opened this week, a bathtub with an outboard motor has been out there fishing for red snapper.
How do you think it'll be the 3-day season we're going to have on the East Coast? You think maybe the boat ramps will be full?
No, I think the weather's going to be terrible.
Shut up. Who asked you? But
no, I think you guys are going to absolutely knock them dead. The only thing is you're going to have to get out to the water and drop that rig and hang on because they're going to hit.
Oh, yeah. The one thing I wish guys would do, Kevin, is I wish they would understand a couple of things. First off, a 12-pound snapper has almost the same amount of meat as a 20-pound snapper. The extra weight is all made up in skeleton and head. There's only about 1.5 pounds difference in their weight. And second off, just like you said, Kevin, get your nice fish and get out of there. You know, you don't throw back 50 fish. That's playing right into what the South Atlantic Council is leaning on for an excuse. Go out there and put a bait down that's aimed at the size fish you want. Now, if you want a small 4 to 8 pound fish, use that cigar minnow. But if you want a 12 to 20 pound fish, how about a whole Boston or a whole ladyfish or something that a big snapper will eat, and catch that big fish and get out of that area. Leave those other big fish alone.
You know, Captain Rick, the thing about it is the Atlantic Council and the Gulf Council have created a more devastating issue by doing what they're doing than they are protecting the fish.
That's right.
30% of those fish released are going to die. And the problem is, when you go through that and you start culling because you only get 3 days, so you want really nice fish, you wind up killing more fish than if you fished a week.
Just think if we could keep one fish every day that we fished. You'd have a spot to stop at on your way to come home from dolphin and wahoo fishing. Everybody'd catch one and you'd get the heck out of there.
I agree with you.
It just makes no
however,
sense.
We have common sense. And that seems to be lost when you go into government.
Oh, yeah, then there's that. Okay. Hey, Captain Kevin, thank you so much. Please tell me we can talk with you next week.
We're going to have more red snapper to talk about, so I'll be really looking forward to talking to you next week.
If I get any more frustrated, I'm going to skip you next week. I'll talk to you then, buddy. Thanks.
All right.
Our thanks to Captain Kevin Lanier for a great Northwest report where it's all about the red snapper. Got a funny feeling the same thing's going on out in the Panhandle. Good afternoon, Captain Tyler Massey.
Hey, Rick. How you guys doing?
We're doing wonderful, my boy. How about yourself?
Oh, we're doing great.
Good. How's your fishing?
Oh, fishing's been fantastic. We've been red snapper fishing every day. I'm sure you guessed that one. But yeah, it's been a good bite so far. Just pretty typical for the beginning of the season. But yeah, the fishing's great everywhere.
Yep, I'm sure you've probably heard it by now, but the Atlantic side's going to get 3 days this year.
Oh man, what are y'all going to do with yourselves with all them days?
I don't know. July 9th, 10th, and 11th is going to be it for us because Tyler, we don't have enough red snapper. They're not rebuilt yet.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about all that, but.
Yep, I think it's nuts. That's for sure. Now, what do you catch?
You'll need some new data.
Yeah, for sure. What are you catching besides snapper?
So besides snapper, inshore fishing's been excellent right now too. The guys on the shorter trips inshore, they're catching plenty of redfish around boat docks in the intercoastal waterway in Santa Rosa Sound. Just pitching that dock with either like a live finger mullet, a bull minnow, or a live shrimp. The pinfish are getting kind of bad to fish with shrimp. You have to have a bunch. You go through a lot just losing them to pinfish. So the small live fish baits work a little better. So that's been excellent. And then early morning, also late afternoon, the speckled trout bite has been good over grass flats. So in between docks, over grass areas, and anything less than about 6 foot of water, it's been a good speckled trout bite.
That's excellent. That's fantastic. How much more time of red snapper? You got red snapper all the way to August now, don't you?
Yep, August 3rd is going to be our last day on the charter boats, and I think the recreational private anglers get until July 24th or 26th or something like that. So, we get a good long season for everybody this year.
Oh, that's great. I'll be glad when the Atlantic gets there, although I don't know I'm going to be alive to see it. Cap, as always, we appreciate it so much. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
I'll be here, Rick.
Captain Tyler Massey putting a wrap on what has been a lot of fun this afternoon. Well, I feel a little better now because I learned that all the guys I talked to can stand about 4 days off of the water before they become grumpy. So I'm going to go in and tell my wife I got plenty of evidence that it's not my fault. I just need to go fishing. And speaking of fishing, it's been good. Now, I'm really pleased to hear about the number of mahi. I happen to know that off of northeast Florida, there were some caught today, and this is into June, and we're still catching a few mahi, and that's a very good sign. That's better than last year. You get down to East Central, and they're pretty happy with the snook fishing down there. Their offshore fishing's okay. It's not fantastic. There's been pretty good kingfish, and of course, the red snapper have taken over all the reefs. You get down to Miami, Captain Alan Sherman says his offshore fishing is slowed. That inshore is pretty good, but their offshore fishing has not been as good. They're doing pretty well on mahi, particularly schoolies, but not much on the sailfish and the kingfish. Come around to the West Coast, and everybody's happy because everybody's catching red snapper. They're biting like crazy, and the guys are doing very well. And I'm pleased with how they're doing on grouper. We're starting to see better numbers of grouper because of longer management and good management plans. One per person is fine. They're doing very well on red grouper and catching quite a few gags, too. Didn't hear a whole lot about kingfish this week. I know there's been some big fish caught in the tournaments, but I guess it's too close to another tournament for there to be a lot of news about kingfish. As you work your way out the Panhandle, of course, if it's not red snapper, it's been a little slow inshore for the trout, although William Tony told us he's doing well on redfish, as did Captain Tyler Massey. He wrapped us up with a good report of pitching live shrimp or mud minnows under docks to catch redfish. It's been very good. So it's been a good summer week in Florida. We're right into the summer pattern now. That's going to go on for a while, so I'm glad to see it. Just watch out for those afternoon thunderstorms. Hey, we hope you enjoyed today's Action Spotter podcast. We'd love for you to subscribe. We'd love for you to go on and rate us, and we'd love for you to send us a question. Either ask us on the Florida Sportsman Facebook page, or you can ask me directly at rick@floridasportsman.com. You got a question about another part of the state? Just send it to me. I'll talk to that Action Spotter and see what's going on. Hey, this Action Spotter report was brought to you this week by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people and nature together. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Rentals, your dream vacation. By DOA Lures, the unfair advantage. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flat spay and offshore hybrids? You need to check out youngboats.com. Hey, until next week, for Florida Sportsman Magazine, I'm Captain Rick Riles, and we will see you out on the rip.